This is the TurboWheel Swift by eWheels. And in this video, we're going to tell you why this is one of the most well-balanced electric scooters in the entry-level market. This is Chuck Temple with Electric Scooter Guide. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy our channel, please subscribe. Also, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Okay, so starting here out on the handlebars, you've got your grips here, which are actually pretty good. They're tacky. You can see this kind of material here that kind of sticks to your hand. They do not rotate. They're good build quality. On either side of the handlebars, you have two brake pedals. So compared to the other Titan T8 variants, which is the 08 and the Horizon, those only have one brake. This scooter has two. So the right side here, you control your front, the left side is the rear. And as you can see, you've got two wires coming from each brake. And what that does is that this front wire here, of course, is the mechanical brake that activates. But also you can see here, you've got another cord coming out. This will activate the electronic brake on the rear motor. And what's cool is that actually both either one of the brakes will actually activate that electronic brake, which is really nice. Here, of course, you have your standard display throttle, which is pretty standard on all electric scooters above about $600 or $700. You hold down mode to get to your lights. You can change the gears, of course, by just clicking mode. Gear 3 is the fastest, and that goes up to about 23, 24 miles an hour. There's a bunch of other P settings in there, such as cruise control and kind of just setting up how fast the scooter goes, things like that. And you can look at that in the written review. We have all that for you. Also here, this blue section here is the way that these handlebars lock in place. So you can screw them and unscrew them, and that is how you're gonna take them down. Moving down the stem, you can see the cords really nicely that they're wrapped in this kind of nylon sheath, which will really help to protect them. Also, you can see here that there's one piece that is actually kind of modular. So this display unit, if something happens to it, you can actually just unplug this right here, pop a new display on, plug it back in, and you're good to go. It's not wired in some intricate way that you can't replace it, which that is actually pretty nice. This is how you would retract everything. So you've got this stem lock piece here. Going all the way down, you have your front suspension here. You've got your front light, as well as two button lights right here on the deck, as well as an inner tube style pneumatic front 8.5-inch tire. You've got your brake cable here. The way that the stem kind of folds down, all of that is in here. We'll talk about that later. And then as you can see, the cords are again wrapped in nylon, which is going to help to protect them. The deck is, you've got your nice TurboWheel Swift logo written here on the deck, along with some nice grip tape, which really helps to keep you in place. On the back, you have your handle. You've got your rear suspension, two more red lights that do flash when you hit the brakes. Although you got to put the brakes down a little further. You can actually activate the electronic brake by just barely pushing the brake handle at all. So that will actually activate your electronic. And if you just do that, the brake lights don't flash. You actually do need to squeeze it a little harder, and then you can see that they'll flash. Finally, of course, on the rear, you've got your fender, as well as an 8-inch solid tire, and got your motor as well as the other drum brake, which I can show you. So for performance, the scooter is very well balanced. It has a good feature set. It's not extremely fast. It's not slow. It's just a well-balanced scooter. It's kind of like the Honda Civic of electric scooters. So for the top speed, it does have a pretty fast top speed. We got this up to 23, 24 miles an hour, which is actually pretty darn fast. It goes definitely faster than like any of the Xiaomi's or 9-bot Maxes. It is about the same as the Fluid Freeride Horizon. For range, we got 19.6 miles, which is quite respectable. And that's made possible by an LG battery, which is an upgrade over other Titan T8 variants. That 19.6 miles is quite long. It's not as long as other scooters like the Fluid Freeride Horizon or the 9-bot Max or even the Xiaomi Pro, but it is further than the Xiaomi M365. So acceleration is quite zippy. It got up to 15 miles an hour in right around 5 seconds, which is about the same time as the Fluid Freeride Horizon, which makes sense because they share the same motor. It is also faster than the Ninebot Max or the Xiaomi Pro, which is pretty cool. So you do get up to 5 miles an hour, a little slower than those, but once you hit 5 all the way to about 15, 18 miles an hour, it's pretty quick. And then it kind of like levels off until you hit about 20, and then it takes a while to get up to 22, 23, but it does hit those speeds. Now, braking performance is where the TurboWheel Swift really shines, and that's because e-wheels threw on an extra brake. So the other T8 variants only have one drum brake. This scooter has two, as you can see from the two handlebars. And what that does is it makes the scooter stop a lot quicker. So whereas the Horizon got about 23 feet of stopping distance, this guy clocked in at 15.3 feet of stopping distance, which is way quicker. It's actually about the same stopping speed as the Xiaomi Pro, and it's definitely faster stopping than the Ninebot Max. So along with this theme of a well-balanced scooter, the scooter portability is also well-balanced. It's not the tiniest scooter ever and the lightest, but it's also not the heaviest scooter that you don't want to pick up. The scooter's 39 pounds, which for me, and I live upstairs, I actually am okay picking up any scooter that's 45 pounds or less. So the way that you fold the scooter down is first you unscrew the handlebars. And this does take longer than other scooters because you do have to, unscrew them. So they come down like this. Then you take this part and the stem is telescoping. So you push this down like so. Down here, you're gonna collapse the whole stem itself. And to do that, you pull back on this lever. If this doesn't pull out easily, you just push this way while holding on to the base. And then it comes out super, super easy. So, the whole stem kind of folds down. Due to where the handlebar is placed, you can see it doesn't lock in super, super well. And so before you lift it up and you want to get it locked in, you kind of have to shake it around a little bit here and turn, just turn this a little bit. And then as you can see, the stem does lock in place. So once you've got everything collapsed, the whole package is just 36 inches long by 7 inches wide, and you can fit this underneath like a table at a restaurant, under your desk at work, stuff like that. And at 39 pounds, it's really not that heavy to pick up. You can carry it pretty well. It's not something you're gonna wanna, take up 2 or 3 flights of stairs, but if you're just going home or you're taking out of the subway or something like that, it's not that bad at all. So one extra feature that e-wheels put on to the TurboWheel Swift is a rear handle. Now that handle is good for a couple things in my opinion. Number one, it actually serves as a place that you can lock up your scooter to. So while some people will lock up their scooter right here, this is a place that I prefer to lock up the scooter. And so you can do that. The other thing that you can do is, because I don't fold my scooters down all the time when I'm going in and out of the house a lot, I usually just keep them up because it takes 15, 20 seconds to totally fold and unfold the scooter, which is not bad, but I'd rather just spend no time unfolding the scooter. And so for me, picking the scooter up, most scooters, you can hold on the base and the stem like this and pick them up, but then look, you get your hand dirty, like I just did, darn it. This is how all my sweaters get messed up. So what you can do with this scooter is you can hold it by the handle, which kind of just saves your hands from getting dirty, and for me saves my sweaters from getting all dirty. You can see right here, this is from the road trip, but and then when you're ready to pick it up, it's actually pretty easy because now you've got this handle, you put one hand on the stem, and I just take my scooters up and down stairs like this. It's real easy. For ride quality, the TurboWheel Swift is similarly well balanced. It's kind of a balance between how much total damping you get versus how much maintenance you want to do on the scooter. So let's go down and check out some of the pieces that make up the ride itself. Whereas most scooters have a pneumatic tire on both the front and the rear, or solid tires on both the front and the rear, this one is a mixed type of tire kind of thing. And so the reason why you would want solid tires is because they're just less maintenance. Now, they're definitely not going to be as good for performance, comfort, and safety because they don't grip the road as well as a pneumatic. But because 90% of your flats happen on the rear tire, having a solid tire on the rear will help you to not get any flats. And since that's where you get most of them, if you're gonna put a solid tire on a scooter, the rear tire is the place to do that. Now, when I'm riding and I'm taking sharp corners and I'm in the rain or I'm braking really hard, you can get this rear tire to skid a little bit. But in my experience on this scooter, it actually rides really well. It corners well. I can carve on this scooter really well. It's kind of a lot of fun to ride. And you don't really notice that the rear tire is not pneumatic all that much. Okay, so the ride, when you're actually riding the scooter, it feels good. You've got all your controls up where you need them. You've got 2 brakes, so you feel pretty safe for stopping. The brake activation is really good. The deck itself is actually pretty nice. So you can see here, you've got a decent amount of room for your feet, which is great. The total damping is made possible by, of course, the pneumatic front tire, but you have dual suspension, which really helps to dampen the whole ride. So actually, when I go on these range tests, it's after 20-30 miles, I'll know how much the suspension and the ride quality is really doing. And for this scooter, it did really well. You don't feel the vibrations all that much because the suspension is good, and it has at least 1 out of 2 pneumatic tires. One of the things we really like about this scooter, and it's going to be especially important for folks that are not trying to do a bunch of work on their scooters and they're not mechanical, is that the scooter is largely maintenance free. And so along with the rear tire being solid, which means you don't have to replace that scooter because you're never going to get a flat, the brakes are also drum brakes. So there's 2 brakes and they're drum brakes are encapsulated. There's nothing that's exposed with a drum brake, and so they're largely maintenance free as well, which again is like it's just a good choice in feature set for this scooter for the entry level rider. One thing that's kind of awesome about this scooter is that the rear brake will lock up, but the front brake won't. If the front brake locks, then you do have a chance of flipping over and kind of toppling over the handlebars, and that's not going to be good. So what's cool about this scooter, and actually something we noticed on the 9bot Max as well, which had the front drum brake, is that the front brake, you actually, check it out, you can actually, I'm pushing the brake down all the way, and I can still get that front tire to roll a little bit. Whereas the rear brake, now watch when I hold this brake will lock up. And so this is a nice safety feature. Again, it kind of shows how this scooter is really well designed for the entry-level rider, because somebody that's first time riding an electric scooter might just slam on both brakes. And if the brakes are not adjusted well, or your front brake is really tight, as I've done on braking tests, I've gone over the front before. You're not gonna really do that on this scooter. Again, when you buy it, you can check this and make sure, but the way ours is tuned, that front brake does have a little bit of movement in it, and it's actually very nice for an entry-level rider because you do not have any chance of going over the front. Now, I'm about 165 pounds, depending on how much I've had to eat the night before. And so the suspension works really well for me, and I know that eWheels put on a different kind of suspension that actually makes this really good for riders 160 to about 200 pounds, which we really appreciate. Now, the scooter rider weight limit is about 210 pounds, and that's, I think, the only drawback to this scooter is that for some riders that are above 200 pounds, the suspension is not going to work as well for you. So one lacking feature about the ride is that there's no audible warning system for anybody. So typically scooters on the left side of the handlebars will have a horn or a bell, and you can see that is absent on this scooter. Luckily, there are plenty of really good aftermarket horns that you can buy. Our favorite one is linked in the video description right now. Also, you can see that we always recommend having a high mounted front light on this scooter. This scooter does have 3 lights, but they're mounted really low, which is okay. It's better than nothing. but it's much better when you have a higher mounted light because you can throw light from a better angle. Plus, cars and other riders can see you a lot better when your light is mounted high. Again, check the video description for our favorite front mounted higher light that you can get that's rechargeable and waterproof and all that kind of stuff. Finally, on the gears, this is probably a nitpicky thing, but this controller, every single time it starts up in gear 1. So of course we never use the scooter in gear 1. We always switch it to gear 3 because, you know, that's the fastest. And every single time you just have to remember to hit the mode button twice. So it's kind of a nitpicky thing, but it would have been nice if that was able to be set permanently. Overall, the build quality for the TurboWheel Swift is very, very good. Parts move together really well. Everything feels hefty. Nothing feels like it's gonna break on us or anything like that. When we're riding, there's no creaking. We really enjoy the fact that there's no stem wobble at all. So you can see here that the tiniest little bit of movement, again, it's really not enough to really notice. It's a great ride. A couple things that we wish were a little bit better is that, number one, the kickstand is I think a little bit low, so it tips a bit over to the side. Again, not a huge deal. We wish that these handlebar, these blue handlebar like screw locking kind of things, this is the same issue we had with the Horizon, which is also a Titan T8 variant, is that they do come unscrewed. On this model that we have, the right side kind of got about maybe a quarter turn unscrewed after about 20 miles. So really not enough to make it unsafe. It's just kind of an annoyance because once it becomes unscrewed a little bit, you know, you do have a little bit of play in the handlebar. Again, it's not gonna collapse on you at all, but maybe about every time you ride it or every couple miles, you may want to just give it a quick half turn. One thing you'll notice also is that the charging port is here located in the front. And as you can see, that's very close to the fender. So when you actually have the charger plugged in, you can actually knock it with your wheel. So when you have it charging, you got to be really careful not to knock that wheel into the charging port because you'll actually bend it. We've done this a bunch of times with this scooter and others. We've never had any of them break yet, but if you do it a bunch of times, definitely you could break that. Finally, there is a little bit of noise to the motor when it's under stress, typically in the 5 to 15 mile an hour range. It's not a lot of noise, but you can hear it a little bit. Overall, this is a very good entry-level scooter. The main pros of this scooter are the dual drum brakes, which are largely maintenance-free. This scooter is extremely well balanced, meaning that it folds small, it's pretty lightweight, it goes fast enough, it brakes well enough, it goes far enough. It's just kind of the perfect blend of all the features to give an entry-level rider a really solid ride. The TurboWheel Swift is sold exclusively by eWheels, and they give you a 1-year warranty on the scooter, which is actually very generous, as many electric scooter companies only come with either a 90-day or a 6-month warranty. So kudos to eWheels for supporting the product. If you're looking for a scooter around $800 and you're an entry-level rider, this is a great scooter to look at. This is Chuck Temple, and thank you for watching this review of the TurboWheel Swift. Ride safe, and don't forget to wear your helmet. Do you have any questions about the TurboWheel Swift? If so, write them in the YouTube comments, and we'll do our best to get them answered for you. If you're interested in another scooter that's around the same price, maybe not quite as many features, but goes a little further, check out our review of the Ninebot Max. And if you're okay to spend a couple $100 more for a scooter that's heavier but has a lot more features, check out our review of the Cabo Skywalker 10S.